Hello, grade 12 students. Welcome back to the final part of our UI tutorial series. So far, we've created this simple cookie clicker style program. The title, a cookie to click on that updates how many cookies are owned with each click, and then an auto clicker that we can buy. It's a button that if we have 10 cookies, we can spend them. They'll be erased from our cookies owned total to have it automatically increment the amount of cookies that we have on a timer. Now, one of the limitations of the way that we set this up right now is if I run this program and I buy this auto clicker, that's going to pop up here. Where are you, program? There we go. I'll buy 10, and it's going to automatically increment. If I click it and run it again, I have it running two separate timers now. And I also don't have the cost increasing. So I don't have very great control over the rate of which this is going up. It's kind of updating itself in an odd way. And since the price isn't increasing, it's not a great game mechanic. This price should be increasing each time for it to be more of a stiff challenge to get this to automatically do work for us. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be adding a little bit of code into our source under our auto clicker action performed to be able to get this to function a little bit more intelligently. Our auto trigger starts at 10, and we are determining if we can actually click on it based off our counts above our auto trigger. One thing that we can do to be able to adjust the value is have each time we actually successfully buy it, we make our auto trigger be 10 units more expensive. Or if we wanted to do it like this, we could say we could times this by like some value, maybe times it by, I don't know, 1.1 times. But for now, we'll just leave this as plus equals 10. I'll just increment it by an even 10 each time. Why not? The other thing that I want to be able to do is that it's going to actually change the amount of time that it takes between each update in kind of a controlled manner. So I want my refresh delay that I decided to be 1 second to decrease each time. This time, I'm going to do it by some amount. I'm going to take my refresh delay and I am going to times it by a delay factor. And I'm actually going to do this with a double. I'm going to make this a private double. Let's call it auto delay. And let's make this 0.95. So it's 95% as much as before. So it's a 5% decrease in how long it takes to go through. So I'm going to times this by auto delay. I'm going to notice there'll be a problem here is that we flash. That's pretty funny. We have a problem with incompatible types, an int and a double. So what I actually need to do here is a little bit of casting. So I am going to take this whole result and I'm going to cast it to an int. So it's actually going to be able to times the double with the int, and then it's going to round it down to the nearest int for our new refresh delay. And let's remember where this gets run. Well, when I make my new timer, I start the timer. This refresh delay is passed in to my timer task as how long it takes between each time it runs. So each time this is run through, this will update its new timer with a new set of values. So it's actually going to allow that to be going faster and faster in a more controlled way as we go through. Now, one other thing I need to be able to do is to adjust what the text says here. Auto clicker cost 10. I'm going to copy that. And down here, I'm going to have it change the text of this auto clicker. And we're going to set the text to auto clicker cost. And now it's not 10. Now it's going to be the auto trigger amount. And I didn't have the right stuff there. Okay, it's going to change the text to be the new cost. And this already deals with the new cost that's required. So let's pop this open. All right, now it costs 20 for the next one. Let's just make sure it's running as expected. It won't let me buy it now. Okay, let's get up to 20. Now I can buy it. Cool, the next one's 30. So it's gonna keep on asking it to be more and more expensive. And we should notice a small increase in how much faster it's going between each time. I'm not convinced it actually has read that correctly. It seems to be incrementing a little bit faster than expected, but we'll take a look at those numbers maybe more another time. For now, just know that it is actually influencing the displayed value, incrementing it properly, and it is adjusting the rate, although there's something going finicky on with how that timer is calculating it, but we'll not worry about that small detail at the current time. The last element that we want to add into this initial state of the game is something that we are going to pull from the side called a progress bar. This progress bar is going to fill up to show how far along the progress has been made on some element that we're referencing. In my game, I'm going to call this the delivery button. And that's not my button. This is just going to be called delivery. And I'm going to add a button above it to do this the proper way here. I'm going to call this the delivery button. And here's what I want to be doing with this in the way that I'm imagining my game working. Delivery on the way. So the text is going to initially say. And what this is meaning is that, maybe I shouldn't have made it so big. Well, let's leave it at that size for now. Is that I have a delivery of cookies that is going to be slowly approaching on its way. And then when it's here, I'll be able to click this button to get that delivery and add it to the cookies that I own. And then this timer will just be kind of running passively in the background. And then every so often when I'm playing, I can come and click on it to accept a nice free gift of cookies. If I wanted to extend the functionality of my program, I could make the rate of this change or have multiple different deliveries and different types. But for now, we're just going to get the first layer set up. And we will see how to do that here when we access our source code. So, my progress bar. I want this thing to be initialized in the first place in my program. So in my constructor, I need to do something like initialize progress bar. Now I haven't created this method yet, but this is, I want to run it in my constructor because I want this to be created right off the bat. The progress bar that I've inserted from the side doesn't come with any settings in advance. I have to set some of those settings up in my code. So just right below this here, I'm going to create this method, just nice up top here. Let's make it a private void initialize my progress bar. And I'll show you how we initialize some of these things here. My progress bar, I called it delivery. My delivery. I am going to do something called set minimum. This means what is the leftmost value of its progress. Oh, I hit maximum. I meant minimum. And here, the maximum, for now I'm just going to set it to be 20. That is, what's the number that is considered the completion of the progress bar. So from 0 to 20 is the range this progress bar is going to be measuring its results in. And then I also need to set the starting value. I'm going to start it at the beginning, at 0. That makes sense to me. One other thing that I can set up here in all these different methods that I can take a look at, one that's kind of helpful for our purpose here, set string painted. In this case, we can play around with this later. I'm going to set it to false for now. What this does is that if it's set to true, it's going to show an actual percentage number in the middle here. For my game, I like my UI to be a little bit simpler and clear, so it's just a visual bar filling up. I don't need this percentage-based thing. I'm not too concerned about it. So by saying false, I get rid of the percentage numbers here. So I will now be able to initialize this progress bar. And when my program runs, the progress bar is there. It has these parameters set up in it, but unfortunately there's nothing that anything does with them yet. We haven't set any code for delivery on the way. We haven't told the progress bar to do anything. What we need for this progress bar to be able to actually do something is to set up some new timers. Down here, where we have our start timer and set timer, it would be really nice to be able to think of a way to generalize this, to be able to set the timers up in less of a direct way. But I'm just going to copy and paste some code that I wrote in advance to save some time that you'll be able to see in your own copy of this. I'm just going to minimize these so they kind of get out of our way here. And I'm setting a progress bar timer and my delivery timer task in here with the code running much in a similar way to the stuff above. I'm going to take the timer that I have, a new timer that I'm going to initialize in another, I think I'll initialize it inside of another class up here, maybe my updater. Let me just think about where I want to put this here. Let's just add it to our timer list. My progress timer. And in the code here, I'm going to set this timer to null just to clear it each time that I run this timer. I'm going to create a new timer, and then I'm going to schedule the delivery to be updating my progress bar. Previously, I updated my counter, but this time I'm updating my progress bar. So I still need to create this updater. Here's my counter updater. Private void progress bar updater. Now, my methods right now are kind of all over the place. I'm just kind of adding them in where I'm working. After this, I need to refactor, meaning go through and edit my code so it's much more organized. In the file that I shared with you, you'll see that it's much more organized. It has nice comments in it. For now, as I'm trying to save a little bit of time in these tutorials, I'm just kind of flying through some things here. But so I'm going to need this process bar updater to be able to tell the process bar what to do. I also need to think about the delay. How long do I want the delay to be between each step of this delivery? Well, remember it's in milliseconds. Let's call this delivery delay, I think. Let's make this, I don't know, half a second, 500 milliseconds for delivery delay. So this timer is going to be a bit faster than the other one, and we have to think about how we want this to be running, what we want it to be doing in terms of how it updates. All right, let's think of how we set up our updater. I want every half a second for my progress bar to showcase one step closer towards its final goal. In this case, the final goal is 20, and we're starting at 0. Here's how I'm going to set up this logic. I'm going to access my progress bar called delivery if delivery. Now I might rename some of this stuff later, but for now I'm just going to call it delivery. I'm going to get its value. So whatever we're currently at, when I first run the code, its start value will be 0. But if its current value is less than the maximum value. So if I'm still along the bar, if my bar isn't full yet, is how I'm setting up this code so far, I'm going to take delivery and I'm going to set the value to be incremented by 1. Let's go. I'm going to get the current value and I'm going to add 1 to it as the new value. I'm incrementing it by 1. So it's going to, each time progress bar updater runs, as long as it hasn't reached the maximum yet, it's just going to update it by 1 unit each time through. Now, if I actually, in my get value, reach my maximum, once I actually get to maximum, I want something different to be happening. I want my, did I call this delivery button if I'm remembering right? Yeah, delivery button. I want to change delivery button's text, which is going to say click to unload delivery, something like that. So once it's full, stop incrementing it. Don't update the number anymore because we reached the maximum in terms of our progress bar. And then once it's maximum, then instead of saying delivery on the way, it means the delivery has arrived, and it's going to change the text and say, click to unload delivery. Now I need this to be able to change some value of a trigger somewhere. I'm going to create a Boolean here for this. I'm going to call this is delivery ready? And it's going to start as false. The delivery won't be ready when it starts. But down here, once it's filled to maximum, I'm going to set delivery ready to equal true. So this is going to be a switch that's going to allow this button to be pushed. So here's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to set an action event for this button. And where did it pop up here? Right up here, awesome. Delivery button action. Okay. I want this button to only have interactions once the bar is full. So I've already set this up. If the delivery is ready. If it's ready, then I am going to, now let me think this through for a sec. This is when the button is pressed. So if the delivery is ready, when the button's pressed, I want to reset it back to its initial state. Delivery on the way, set the text to it. I'm going to set the value back to 0. And I'm going to set this to false. So once, this is me collecting the delivery. So I've collected it, so then a new delivery will be on the way immediately in this fanciful imaginary world of ours. That is fine. I'm going to reset the value to 0 to have the counter start again. Well, actually what's happening here for us is that the counter hasn't been reset. It's just been continuing in the background, just not updating anything, but now it's back at 0. It'll increment it again, so kind of a sneaky way around worrying too much about that. And delivery ready equals false. Let's see what we have going on here. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to, in my initialize, I forgot to run my timer. That I imported. I need to set that timer going. I need to get this, the logic for the starting in my initialized part of my code in my constructor up here. So now that I've initialized it and remember to actually get that logic running, I should see the bar filling up every half a second. It's incrementing by 1. Once it's full, let's make sure things are working on in the background. Good, everything's to be working back there. Click to unload delivery. All right, it's full. When I click to unload, it empties and the delivery is on the way again. Cool. One problem. My cookies didn't change. I didn't actually get anything for that delivery, which is really sad. So what I need to do is delivery button, when it's accessed, I want to actually give myself some cookies. And I've already set up a way to be able to do this, my counter update. And let's be generous, and let's say we get 100 cookies each time this runs. So I'll just add that into my code, and I'm going to click on my cookies. I'm going to buy some of the auto clicking. Make sure I have enough money. And when that's full, I'm going to go, okay, I'm at 30, 31. Click to unload. I get 100 cookies. It starts to refill again, and now I have lots of money to spend, lots of cookies to spend. It's going to increment, and 60, I'm going to make this go even faster now. Deliveries here, click, I get 100 more, or I can spend some more. And now we start to have some different mechanics going on in this game, where I'm making the auto clicking go faster, I'm spamming it myself when I can, getting my delivery when it's there, and being able to upgrade, and this is getting faster and faster. Numbers are jumping around a little bit funny, but that might just be the NetBeans just being difficult. And so now we have something that seems a little bit more like the clicker games that we see online. Now, what we don't have is many different types of auto clickers, many different forms of deliveries, maybe different objects to interact with, maybe different pop-ups, maybe power-ups, the other types of game mechanics that will make this maybe more like a clicker game that you found online, maybe make the pace a little bit slower, maybe add in some other types of animations or interactions, stuff to make this game just have much more functionality. To begin with, if you read through the instructions, you'll be constructing a base case scenario. Whatever your design choice is, don't use this exact cookie idea in your own design. Think about what the concept you want to explore is in your construction, map it out, and just make sure the basic elements like this are running. The next step after that will be to add in some more complex elements and then extend its functionality into cool other ways, attempting to interact with maybe some of the different types of controls engaged in different types of actions. Maybe we want to add an event for the mouse moving over something and changing it. Maybe we want to have a key being pressed on the keyboard doing something on our screen. There's so much potential for what you can do with this project to really make it your own and showcase a strong understanding as you practice working with the UI and making it friendly and engaging and entertaining for the user. Hopefully this tutorial's got you in a good spot. Make sure that you look at the code I've shared with you. It's going to be refactored and renamed in a way that will be much clearer to follow as you read through it. Enjoy these projects. Have fun with them. Looking forward to seeing what it is that you can create.